When her husband went to the army as a military doctor, he took along his frail and sickly elder sister-in-law. It was only because the rural conditions were poor, and he feared she would suffer when I had a difficult labor with a high fever. He refused to come back, saying, "My sister-in-law's cold is more serious," leaving me with a lifelong ailment after the child was born. He was weak and often ill. I begged him to bring back some medicine, but he coldly replied, "My brother's child needs it more. You and our child just endure it." I endured until he came home, thinking life would finally settle down, only to be met with, "Let's get a divorce. My sister-in-law's child is being called a bastard at school. I can't let him grow up without a proper status." I was literally driven to death by anger when I opened my eyes again. I was back on the day of the difficult labor. This time, I found a doctor in advance, gave birth smoothly, and immediately drafted a divorce agreement. This time, I will make both him and his sister-in-law pay the price. Chapter 1. Right after giving birth, without even taking the postpartum confinement period, I rushed straight to the military base where Xie Jiangwo was stationed. When I reached the guardhouse, upon hearing that I was looking for Xie Jiangwo, they warmly welcomed me in. A young soldier even joked, "Dr. Xie, who is this? Could she be one of your admirers? I didn't expect you and your wife to be so happy, and there's still a woman willing to travel thousands of miles to see you." I pushed open the door, intending to greet Xie Jiangwo. To my surprise, the moment he saw me, his face immediately darkened. That was because sister-in-law Qin Mei was lying completely naked beneath him, with Xie Jiangwo's hand still resting on her back as he massaged her. The young soldier beside them, already used to such scenes, smiled and closed the door for us. Hearing my voice, Qin Mei quickly pulled her clothes tight and looked up at me. "Chen Wan, what are you doing here?" As soon as those words left her mouth, we both stared at each other, frozen in shock. Qin Mei was 6 years older than me, yet her skin was now so smooth and delicate it seemed it might break at a touch, with not a single wrinkle on her face. I had just given birth and was weak, my body still carrying a lingering smell of blood and milk. Seeing this, Xie Jiangwo hurriedly grabbed a piece of clothing and carefully put it on Qin Mei. As he dressed her, his face was full of displeasure. "Song Chuanwan, why did you come running here? Don't you know the military is very strict, and you can't just come whenever you want?" I frowned coldly and looked at him. "Your sister-in-law can settle here, so why can't I, as your wife? Or do you not want them to know we're married, and prefer they assume you and your sister-in-law are the couple?" Qin Mei finally caught on. Stepping forward, she leaned against Xie Jiangwo with a hint of grievance. "Chuanwan, what kind of talk is that? We're having them call us that here just to avoid gossip. Jiangwo and I are completely innocent. There's nothing between us." I cast a cold glance over them. Xie Jiangwo turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. Just then, there was another knock at the door. A chubby little boy burst in and grabbed hold of Xie Jiangwo's arm. "Daddy, when are you going to transfer me to your household registration? They all say that if our household registrations aren't together, we're not a family, but you're clearly my dad." Xie Jiangwo's face changed instantly upon hearing the word daddy. He quickly shot a glance at Qin Mei, who promptly pulled the child away. I watched the child's innocent back, then looked at Xie Jiangwo, whose eyes began to show panic. "Impressive, Xie Jiangwo, you don't care about your own child, but you rush to be a father to someone else's." His gaze shifted evasively toward my flat stomach. "You gave birth." "I've just been so busy lately, I didn't get a chance to come back and see you." "How could you come running here right after giving birth?" I ignored him, stepped back 2 paces, and looked at him coldly. Xie Jiangwo seemed to suddenly realize something, forcing a smile as he approached. "Chuanwan, what do kids know? They're just talking nonsense. Besides, he's my eldest brother's child. My eldest brother and I are as close as blood brothers. It's not wrong for him to call me dad. If you're willing, we can also transfer Chancy to our household registration." Chapter 2. I let out a scornful laugh, finding Xie Jiangwo's words utterly absurd, but this wasn't the first time he had said such things. 3 years ago, Xie Jiangwo's elder brother passed away unexpectedly. At his mother-in-law's urging, he naturally took on the responsibility of supporting his sister-in-law and nephew. At first, he only helped out occasionally, but the more he helped, the closer he grew, almost treating his sister-in-law as his own wife. Until 2 years ago, Xie Jiangwo was assigned to accompany the army. I thought he would take me along, but he said Qin Mei was in poor health and needed his care, so he quietly left with her, leaving me alone to take care of our elderly mother-in-law. Before leaving, he promised to come back to see me every year, and I believed him. In the first year, he did come back once, but no matter how many letters I wrote afterward, or how much I inquired, there was no news from him again. He didn't even send a single cent of his allowance or rations, leaving only the words, "Things are tight in the unit, there's nothing to share." I said I wanted to go find him, but he flatly refused. It's dangerous to follow the army. It's not a place for women. I naively thought he was looking out for me, and even felt that his being a military doctor was a supreme honor, and as his wife, I didn't want to cause him trouble, so I gradually stopped bothering him. It wasn't until I had a difficult labor, and the village doctors were helpless, saying only Xie Jiangwo could save me. I sent someone to deliver a letter to him day and night, but he only replied with one sentence: "Sister-in-law has a fever. I can't get away." After the child was born, I was left with a chronic illness. When he returned from his military deployment, the first thing he did was not to visit me, but to file for divorce, only because he said he couldn't let Xie Tianxi grow up as a bastard without a father. I just found it ridiculous. During all these years that Qin Mei accompanied him on his deployment, everyone had already assumed she was Mrs. Xia, and my child and I were nothing but nameless burdens. I was about to say something when a crashing sound suddenly came from outside the door. Xie Tianxi burst in like a cannonball, slamming me headfirst into the fireplace. My back hit the stove hard, and the scorching iron pressed against my arm. I let out a muffled groan in pain, watching helplessly as a layer of skin peeled off. "You bitch, what are you doing here, trying to steal my dad from me?" Xie Tianxi shouted at me. "You're just a poor country bumpkin, disgusting to look at." He spoke rapidly, still in perfect standard Mandarin. Qin Mei quickly stepped forward to hold him back, coaxing softly, "Tianxi, speak to her in the local dialect. She doesn't understand Mandarin." I looked down at Xie Tianxi and smiled. "Who are you calling a bitch? Who taught you that?" He was clearly stunned. No one in our village could speak Mandarin, and I, to get closer to Xie Jiangwo, learned it word by word from TV dramas. Blisters had already formed on my arm, throbbing with pain. Xie Jiangwo stood at a distance and tossed over a piece of gauze. "Chen Yuan, the kid doesn't understand. Don't hold it against him. Just rinse that wound of yours under cold water." I stared at him intently. "You're a doctor. You know that if this burn isn't treated, it could get infected, yet you're telling me to bandage it myself." He shot me an impatient glance. "If you hadn't come rushing over here on your own, would any of this have happened? Once you've taken care of the wound, just head back," he added, without even taking a step closer. I stared at him blankly, my throat feeling as if something were stuck in it, unable to utter a single sound. I had never imagined that in his eyes, I was such an unwanted presence, but I'm not planning to go back. Chapter 3. Upon hearing this, Xie Jiangwo's voice was strained with dissatisfaction. "Song Chuanwan, you can't stay here. Didn't I tell you already? It's dangerous here, not a place for a woman like you. Go back tomorrow, stay home and wait for me to return." I looked at him, my eyes instantly reddening. I was injured during childbirth and fell ill, unable to work in the fields. There are no grain coupons at home, the baby has no milk to drink, and my body is barely holding up. What do you want me to go back for? To wait for death? Xie Jiangwo frowned, looking at me with disgust. "I sent you a bunch of medicine during the flu outbreak a while ago. How could you get sick? And I sent the grain and cloth coupons back on time. What are you playing the victim for now?" I laughed until tears streamed down my face. I stared wide-eyed, glaring at him. "Xie Jiangwo, you never sent me any of those things. Even when I had a high fever during pregnancy and nearly passed out, I wrote you so many letters, yet you never came back even once. Do you know what I ate throughout my entire pregnancy?" Xie Jiangwo frowned, his tone laced with disbelief. "How is that possible?" He paused mid-sentence, as if suddenly struck by a thought, and turned his head to look at Qin Mei somewhat incredulously. He walked over to her and muttered a few words. Soon, Xie Tianxi's voice came from inside the room. "Dad, why are you helping outsiders bully Mom? Those things were originally ours, the three of us. Why give them to an outsider?" Xie Jiangwo was busy calming Xie Tianxi down. It took a while before he came out, his tone turning stiff. "Chuanwan, those letters, Tianxi tore them up. I didn't know. He's still young, and I didn't notice either. As for the things I was supposed to send you, sister-in-law probably just forgot for a moment. I found it utterly ridiculous. So you never wondered why I had no news at all, and you never took the initiative to ask around." Xie Jiangwo frowned, looking utterly self-righteous. "How was I supposed to know what was going on over there? I thought you just didn't want to write to me. Besides, sister-in-law spent those things on me anyway. What are you getting angry about now?" I clenched my teeth, unable to speak. Maybe my expression was too grim, because Xie Jiangwo walked over and took my hand. "Chuanwan, don't be like this. From now on, I'll go to the mailroom myself to pick up letters. I'll care about how you and the child are doing. Don't be upset. You've been unwell lately. Stay here a few more days, and I'll help you recuperate. Wait until you're fully recovered before going back. The child needs you too." I let out a cold snort, not wanting to bother with him at all, and turned to go inside. Xie Zhengwo followed closely behind. With no one else in the room, his gaze suddenly turned intense. He sat down by my bed and said in a low voice, "Chen Yuan, I've missed you so much." With that, he eagerly pressed his lips to mine. The next second, a violent knocking came from outside the door. Xie Tianxi was sitting at the doorstep, his arm covered in a glaring red burn. Qin Mei stood to the side, flustered and at a loss. With a panicked expression on her face, she sobbed uncontrollably. "I don't know how it happened either. This kettle wasn't supposed to be there. Maybe Chen Yuan moved it when she was pouring water, and Tianxi didn't know, so he bumped into it." Xie Tianxi, crying, pointed at me and cursed loudly. "It's all because of this bastard. It's all because of this bitch. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been burned. Dad, I don't want her living here. Kick her out." Chapter 4. Xie Zhengwo's face clearly showed impatience, and his eyes turned colder. "Chen Yuan, you can stay here if you want, but why do you have to mess with things? Do you know how delicate a child's skin is? What if it leaves a scar after being scalded?" I frowned and said, "Xie Zhengwo, I didn't even touch it just now." Before I could finish, Xie Zhengwo impatiently bumped into me and walked over to Xie Tianxi. My arm, which had not yet healed from a burn, hit the wall behind me, and a piercing pain surged from deep within my nerves. But Xie Zhengwo didn't even glance at me, only said coldly, "Song Chen Yuan, ever since you came, you've disrupted the harmony here. Can't you see? Tianxi has been in a terrible mood these past 2 days. I've never seen him like this." I stared at him blankly, my throat tightening. "Are you trying to drive me away?" He didn't answer, just silently looked away, as if in tacit agreement. After a long while, I finally spoke. "I'm not leaving. You're my husband. It shouldn't be me who has to go." Hearing this, Xie Zhengwo let out an irritated sigh and yanked me out the door. My arm was still bleeding, but he didn't even glance at it. He just roughly stuffed a few food coupons into my bag. "Get back home. Don't hang around here and get in our way." Hearing this, I felt a tightness in my chest, and my breathing became erratic. Turning my head again, I saw him crouching beside Xie Tianxi, applying medicine to his wounds. So it wasn't that he didn't know how to be kind to someone, it was that he simply didn't want to be kind to me. Just moments ago, when he was bandaging Xie Tianxi, his hands were skilled, meticulous, and gentle, but when it came to me, he wouldn't even hand me a bandage from a closer distance. More and more onlookers gathered, their gazes filled with contempt. Xie Tianxi's cries could still be heard from inside the room, mingled with Xie Zhengwo's low murmurs of comfort to Qin Mei. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Could she be the other woman?" Exactly, I always thought Dr. Xie seemed upright, not the type to have an affair. This woman has no shame, probably rushing in to wreck someone else's family. Before I could retort, the door suddenly swung open. Xie Zhengwo stood at the doorway, his gaze cold. "Song Chuanwan, get out of here now. Stop making a scene." Even Qin Mei spoke up, holding Xie Tianxi in her arms, her tone gentle. "Chen Yuan, Tianxi is fine. Even if you left such a big scar on him, he wouldn't blame you." The voices around me grew more chaotic, but I suddenly fell silent. I looked up at Qin Mei, a slow smile curling at the corners of my mouth. Then, I knelt down step by step and burst into loud sobs. "Sister-in-law, Tianxi is your and big brother's child. Don't worry, I'll take good care of them and treat them as my own son." I looked up at her, tears in my eyes, but my tone carried a sarcastic plea. "Please, give me back my husband, okay?" Chapter 5. The people around me fell silent the moment they heard me say the word husband. They all turned to look at Xie Zhengwo, their eyes filled with confusion and suspicion. "Wait a minute, she just called Qin Mei sister-in-law. What kind of relationship is that? I'm from the same village as Dr. Xie, and I remember his wife's surname was Song, not Qin, right? I thought I had misremembered before, but is there really something going on?" All sorts of whispers drilled into Xie Zhengwo's ears. His face darkened, and he shut the crowd aside, forcibly pulling me up from the ground. I struggled against him, and my freshly scalded arm was exposed as I pulled away. The skin on my arm was torn and blistered, drawing sharp gasps from the crowd. "Oh my god, that arm looks almost rotten, doesn't it? How did that happen? Could it be that Qin Mei was jealous of her and hurt her?" Unable to drag me away, Xie Zhengwo whispered in my ear, "Chuanwan, let's talk about this inside. Don't make a scene out here." But I shook my head desperately, my voice choked with sobs. "Zhengwo, stop scolding me. And stop hitting me. I agree to put Tianxi on my household registration. Isn't that enough? Back then, you said Qin Mei was in poor health and insisted on bringing her along with the army, but look at her now. Does she seem sick? She's healthier than I am. I beg you, don't divorce me, don't abandon our child." The moment my voice rang out, Everyone around immediately understood the whole story. A few young soldiers, their faces dark with anger, stepped forward. Dr. Xia, we always thought you were a good man. We never expected you to do something like this. How could you bring your sister-in-law to accompany the army? Everyone knows only married couples can apply for that. Qin Mei couldn't help but step forward, her face pale. It's not like that. Jianhua and I are innocent. We didn't do anything. Xia Zhengwo also grew anxious. Everyone, don't misunderstand. My elder brother passed away, so it's only right for me to take care of my sister-in-law. But the crowd no longer looked at him with the same trust as before. Humph, even if it's taking care of her, you can't do it like this, can you? A widow following the army, does that sound proper? In our village, she'd be drowned in gossip alone. Dr. Xia gets so many ration tickets every month, claiming it's to support his mother, but he doesn't send a single one back. His wife and kids are eating chaff and vegetables at home. I watched them shift from doubt to clarity, one by one, until I couldn't hold back my tears. Xia Zhengwo, then tell me, if it wasn't selfishness, why have you never cared about our family? When our child had a high fever on the day he was born, I came to you for medicine, but you said Xia Tianxi's health was more important. Do you know how your mother has treated me all these years? She wouldn't give me food. I didn't gain a single pound during my pregnancy. I actually lost 10 pounds. Who would have thought I'm actually 6 years younger than my sister-in-law? The crowd erupted completely, and all eyes turned sharply to Xia Zhengwo's face. Oh my god, I thought this woman was older than Qin Mei, but it turns out she's even younger. With that complexion and that frame, she's clearly been worn down. Her child almost died, and Xia Zhengwo is still out there enjoying himself. The calm in Xia Zhengwo's eyes finally began to crumble. He whispered my name, stepped forward, and gently stroked my trembling hand. I'm sorry, Chen Yuan, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I swear, once this mission is over, I'll come home and give you and our child a better life. I turned my face away, unwilling to look at him anymore. Just then, the minister strode over with several officers. Seeing me kneeling on the ground, covered in bruises, his expression shifted abruptly. What happened? How did you end up like this? Chapter 6. Several officers whispered the recent events into his ear. The minister frowned deeply. Xia Zhengwo, what the hell is going on? Xia Zhengwo's body trembled. It's nothing, minister. This is just a family matter. After saying this, he hurriedly came to pull me up. Chuanwan, come on, let's talk inside. The minister stopped him with a firm hand and frowned at him. She's injured like this, and you're still pulling her around without any care. You may be a doctor, but you're also with the army, and you must follow military discipline. When you reported your accompanying family information, whose name did you put down? Was it Song Chuanwan or Qin Mei? Xia Zhengwo mumbled, not daring to speak. The minister just gave him a sidelong glance, then spoke. If you dare to forge an identity or falsify documents, you'll be deceiving your superiors and subordinates, and defiling military discipline. As he spoke, the minister gently pulled me behind him, looking at my scarred arm. His eyes were full of concern. Miss, tell me, what help do you need? I can make decisions for you. From now on, you will be an official family member of our unit, enjoying the best treatment. Okay. I looked at him, and tears finally couldn't help but fall, yet I still gently shook my head. No, I just want to divorce Xia Zhengwo. At these words, everyone was stunned, their gazes all fixed on me. Xia Zhengwo pushed Qin Mei aside abruptly and rushed over to me. What did you say? Chen Yuan, have you lost your mind? You just gave birth to our child, and now you want a divorce. Yes, I want a divorce. My voice was steady, but every word cut like a knife. All these years, you've only cared about your eldest sister-in-law's family. You've never looked after me, nor our child. I always thought you were just too busy with the army, but after coming here today, I realized you've been raising someone else's child as your own son. I don't want you anymore, even if I have to starve with our child. I don't want him to have a father as fickle as you. Xia Zhengwo's face instantly changed. He hurriedly grabbed my hand and said, Chen Yuan, what are you saying? There must be a misunderstanding. I'm not as bad as you make me out to be. We can't get divorced. I looked him straight in the eye and asked coldly, why not? Haven't you already started a new family? What do you want from me now? I shook him off and turned to the minister. Minister, I am formally filing for divorce. I hope you will approve it. Upon hearing this, Xia Zhengwo grew anxious. He pulled me aside, his face darkening. Minister, this matter requires my consent. She can't decide on her own. The minister's face darkened, and his gaze turned noticeably colder. Although I didn't agree, He shook his head at me helplessly. I also understood the minister's predicament and decided to settle in first before thinking of a countermeasure. Seeing that I had relented, the minister immediately instructed someone to take good care of me. Shortly after, someone brought clean clothes and arranged a room for me, telling me to rest well over the next few days. I had planned to leave as soon as I figured out a way to get a divorce, but Xie Jiangwo grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. He followed me into the room and lowered his voice to say, "Chuan-wan, let's not get divorced, okay? I can't live without you. Besides, we already have a child. I don't want him to grow up without a father from the moment he's born." I looked at him with a cold sneer. "Fine. Then tell your sister-in-law to move out and stop living together." Chapter 7. Xie Jiangwo's face changed drastically, his tone tinged with impatience. "Where can a woman like her go? She's in poor health. How is she supposed to live? Besides, Tianxi is timid. If he loses his father, how will he get by at school?" I looked at him, my gaze as cold as ice. "You care so much about them, but when have you ever cared about me? Do you know how your mother has bullied me over the past 3 years? The day before I got pregnant, she still forced me to carry water from the mountain for a bath. I went back and forth more than a dozen times, fell and was covered in bruises, couldn't even stand up, and she still called me useless." Xie Jiangwo, when you're taking care of someone else's son, have you ever thought that your own wife is suffering, that your own child is sick? Xie Jiangwo opened his mouth, as if to say something. In the end, he just remained silent, lowered his head, and let out a long sigh. The room was eerily quiet, so much so that even the rustling of wind through the branches outside could be heard clearly. Xie Jiangwo was still sighing, his lips moving slightly, opening several times without a sound coming out. But I suddenly spoke up. "You won't agree to a divorce, will you?" I turned around, no trace of pleading left on my face. "But I don't need your signature either." He was stunned. I pulled a piece of paper from under the pillow and unfolded it slowly and deliberately. It was the report I had written. Every stroke of the characters clear and distinct. "It doesn't matter if you refuse to sign the divorce agreement. I've already written a letter of complaint and am ready to send it to the Military Region Supervision Department." I looked at him and said, word by word, "You altered the military dependence documents without authorization, registering your widowed sister-in-law as your spouse in the military. This is no small issue if anyone investigates it." Xie Jiangwo's face turned pale instantly, and his voice dropped. "Are you threatening me?" I smiled. And at that moment, I even felt a sense of relief. "It's not a threat, it's a reminder. I've finally learned not to count on your conscience kicking in, so I'm giving you a way out. Face or divorce, give me back what's mine, and you choose." Xie Jiangwo didn't answer, just kept holding my hand and sighing. After a long while, he finally murmured, "Chuan-wan, can you give me a month? I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer." I nodded, since my body really wasn't in good shape right now, and I needed Xie Jiangwo to help me recuperate. Besides, the evidence I already had in hand was enough to bring him down, so I wasn't afraid of any new moves he might make. I settled in at the military base, and Xie Jiangwo came by every day. He sounded me out, not wanting to divorce me, but I was firm every time. Whenever he said he didn't want a divorce, I told him to drive his sister-in-law away. After saying this a few times, Xie Jiangwo seemed to grow impatient, and his initial reluctance to divorce began to waver. Still, he held firm on not wanting a divorce. But ever since I proposed the divorce that day, the atmosphere in the military unit changed. The minister personally kept me back and arranged for me to work as an assistant in the medical office. He said it was taking care of the doctor's family, but I knew it was more like a hint. Yet Qin Mei and Xie Jiangwo pretended not to understand, continuing to do as they pleased every day. I didn't bother with them either. After all, since divorcing Xie Jiangwo, I needed to build my own career, so during these days, I took the opportunity to learn many new things. During the day, I assisted with medicine registration, and at night, I meticulously sorted through the account books from these past years. I even made 3 copies of the military dependence application form that Xie Jiangwo had secretly altered that year, and carefully placed them into envelopes by category. When the minister came for an inspection, he casually praised me for being meticulous, then said to Xie Jiangwo, "Your wife is truly a great helpmate, you should cherish her." A stiff smile was plastered on his face, while Qin Mei beside him lowered her head, a hint of panic flickering in her eyes. Chapter 8. Seeing that I had been mentioning divorce less frequently lately, Xie Jiangwo excitedly began planning our life after the military assignment ended. But he didn't know that during the day, while I was helping organize the medical supplies, a soldier ran over and handed me a letter signed by the Beijing Garrison Discipline Inspection Section. I opened it and saw it was an acknowledgement of receipt. "We have received the issues you reported, including falsification of military family information, private use of military resources, and failure to fulfill support obligations for military families. A formal investigation will be launched after verification. Thank you for your cooperation and trust. I folded the letter and placed it inside a book behind the medicine cabinet. From that moment on, Xie Jiangwo's truly good days came to an end. But before Xie Jiangwo's issues were exposed, Qin Mei got into trouble first. I was organizing the medicine cabinet in the clinic when someone ran in, panting and speaking excitedly. Chuanwan, come out quickly, Dr. Xie has gone crazy, he's hitting people. I frowned and put down what I was holding. Stepping outside, I saw Xie Jianjun charging into the military living quarters, his face deathly pale, his eyes almost brimming with despair. He kicked open Qin Mei's door before the logistics soldier inside, still in his military uniform, could react. Xie Jianjun knocked him down with a single punch. Qin Mei was wearing a half-loose nightgown, her face lightly made up, and in her hand she clutched the bracelet Xie Jianjun had begged for her. Panicked, she cried out as she tried to stop Xie Jianjun. Jianjun, listen to me, it's not what you think, is it not what I saw? Xie Jiangwo seemed to have gone mad, his voice tearing. I lost my own wife for you, and you've been with someone else all along. He roared like a wild beast, eyes bloodshot, fingers trembling. You said you were in poor health and wanted me to take you along with the army. You said you were afraid of being bullied by the villagers, afraid no one would take care of Tianxi. And what happened? In my own house, you sleep with another man. Do you have any shame before my elder brother? I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching quietly, without making a sound. Someone recognized me and asked in a low voice, Chuanwan, aren't you going in to take a look? I smiled and shook my head. The next morning, Xie Jiangwo came. He stood at the door of the infirmary, unshaven, with hollow eyes. He looked at me, his voice low and hoarse. Chuanwan, I was wrong. Now I know that you are the most important. That bitch Qin Mei has been lying to me all along. She even took the food coupons I gave you to support another man. I didn't look at him and continued to count the medicine inventory. Didn't you say, she's my brother's widow, and I need to take care of her for him? Didn't you say she definitely wouldn't steal from you? He was speechless, remaining silent for a long time before speaking. She deceived me. I really didn't know she was with someone else, but what's the difference between you and her? You've been deceiving me all along too. I looked up at him, my eyes as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Did you really think I couldn't tell that your relationship with Qin Mei was unusual? Did you really think that when you brought her to the military base, I would believe you two were innocent? But back then, I was still foolish and still loved you, so I chose to deceive myself into believing you, not in love anymore. His voice trembled. I chuckled softly. Xie Jiangwo, every single thing you did was you pushing me away with your own hands. He dropped to his knees with a thud. Chuanwan, please, don't leave me. I'm willing to put the house and land under your name. I only beg you not to report me, not to divorce. Looking at the disheveled man before me, my mind flashed back to the image of me tumbling down the mountain while pregnant. I glanced down at him, my voice barely a whisper. I am no longer the woman you thought would forgive you and depend on you. Chapter 9. Less than 10 days after the report was submitted, the Discipline Inspection Commission issued an official document. Xie Jiangwo, for illegally altering military family records, misappropriating supplies, and falsifying military relocation information, was expelled from the military, stripped of his military medical qualifications, and permanently barred from re-employment. Qin Mei was also sent back to her place of origin. What was once publicly claimed as caring for a widow turned into keeping a sister-in-law as a mistress. Those colleagues who had privately defended him now turned away without another word, and Xie Tianxi, because of Qin Mei's affair, was utterly disgraced. Now she dares not go out, muttering like crazy every day that she is not a bastard and that she has a father. But that has nothing to do with me anymore. After Xie Jiangwo was detained, the minister approved my divorce application. The speed of processing even caught me a bit off guard. I took my child, officially divorced, and left the military district. On the day of my departure, many people came to see me off, including the young soldier who had stood up for me. He handed me a letter. It's from the Military Commission's Garrison Department. They've read your work report and recommendation letter, and they're willing to invite you to join the medical support team. I was taken aback, took the letter, and my heart suddenly leaped with joy. After arriving in the capital, work was busy but steady. The child also received systematic treatment, and his health gradually improved. With the money I earned, I rented a place and started a new life. The child slowly learned to speak and gradually began to call me mom. He was no longer the malnourished, pitiful child from his past life. In this life, I fed him until he was chubby and round, and by the age of 3, he could recite the 300 Tang poems. In the 4th year after arriving in the capital, I took the child to the hospital for a follow-up visit just outside the door. A military district vehicle was parked not far away. It was my current direct superior who came to pick me up in person. He has always been very considerate of me. It wasn't an ardent pursuit, but rather a patient wait. He smiled and waved at me, holding the gifts he had bought for me and Xiaobao. I was just wrapping a scarf around the child, about to walk toward him, when I heard a hoarse shout from behind, "Chen Yuan." I didn't move, nor did I stop walking until the voice rang out a second time, hoarse and pleading, "Song Chuanwan, wait for me. It's me, Xie Jiangwo." Only then did I turn around. Xie Jiangwo was wearing an old military coat that had been washed pale, his face no longer bearing the heroic spirit of the past, only exhaustion and haggardness. He had lost a lot of weight, with dark circles under his eyes from years of poor sleep. He walked cautiously toward me, his voice trembling. "Chuanwan, I've been released from prison. I've thought a lot over the years inside. I was wrong. Are you doing well now?" I glanced down at him, my tone cold and steady. "Dr. Xia, you've mistaken me for someone else." I took the child's hand and got into the car without looking back. The political director glanced back at him, his eyes full of sympathy as he looked at me. "Chen Yuan, who is that? Is he a homeless man you kindly sponsored, and now he's bothering you? Do you want me to step in and drive him away?" I shook my head. "Don't bother with him. He's just a useless man." The car door slowly closed at that moment. I saw Xie Jiangwo kneeling on the ground, his eyes red, his mouth still seeming to call my name, but I could no longer hear that voice. I thought it would all end there unexpectedly. From that day on, Xie Jiangwo, as if gone mad, waited every day outside the hospital where I worked. It happened that one day my boss didn't pick me up, and as I walked out alone after the night shift, I saw Xie Jiangwo standing under a sycamore tree across the street. He was wearing that faded, worn-out military coat, his hair a mess, holding a lunchbox in his hand. He ran toward me, a forced, ingratiating smile on his face. "Chuanwan, I specially made your favorite pork rib soup. It's still warm. Would you like some?" I didn't stop, not even glancing at him as I walked around him. He panicked, dropped his lunchbox, and chased after me, spreading his arms to block my way. "Are you really not giving me any chance? I've lost everything. I can't get into the military, and I can't even get into the hospital anymore. No one respects me. I just want you to forgive me once." I finally stopped, slowly lifting my eyes to look at him, my gaze utterly calm. "Xie Jiangwo, why should I forgive you? Do you think just because you're down and out, I'm supposed to soften? But have you forgotten, when I was at my lowest, you were the one who kicked me out the door. When I begged you not to drive me away, you said that seeing me would only make Qin Mei feel disgusted. Now you come pretending to be all sentimental." He froze, a twisted look of regret spreading across his face. I was bewitched back then. I was a bastard. I raised my hand to cut him off. "Shut up, Xie Jiangwo. Just hearing you say one word now makes me sick. Aren't you in love with your sister-in-law and her son? Didn't you say Tianxi would get bullied at school without a father? So why don't you go back to them? What? Now that you realize you're a joke, you want to drag me down to the bottom with you? Aren't you supposed to be magnanimous? What's a little cuckoldry to you?" He stood frozen in place, his eyes red, his voice almost pleading. "Chen Yuan, I've really changed. Don't be so heartless. Even if you won't forgive me, at least let me see our child. He's never met his father since he was born." I chuckled softly, stepped closer to him, and whispered in his ear, "No, he has a father now." Xie Jiangwo stood there stunned, not understanding what I meant. I raised an eyebrow at him but said nothing more. He reached out to grab me, but I pushed his hand away and walked straight toward the hospital entrance. Behind him, he collapsed onto the ground as if his soul had left him, murmuring my name under his breath. He threw me into the mud, but I bloomed into a flower from that very mud. Now he wants to pick me back up, but I only find it dirty. He lives in regret, while I live in the light. I am going to take my child and pursue the good life that belongs to me. The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. My husband said we should be filial to his parents, so every month he sent half of our meat and grain coupons to them. I believed him. But that day I saw with my own eyes him pull out a thick stack of his freshly received salary and hand it over to his brother's widow. "Yao Yao, you must take good care of yourself, or I'll be heartbroken." I was furious and made a scene. During our argument, he pushed me into a stinking ditch. I accidentally hit my head and choked on the foul, dirty water, only to be mocked by him. That push made me completely give up on him. But later, When I got into college, I heard that he had abandoned Xiaoya and cried and begged just to see me. I laughed and said, "Get lost." The moment I received the admission letter, I couldn't hold back my tears. No one knows how much effort I put in and how many hardships I endured to reach this moment. On the day I filled out my college application, I chose the distant Jing University without hesitation. The teacher joked, "You're going that far, will your husband agree? What if he runs off with someone else while you're away?" Every time my husband Jiang Huai is mentioned, people always think I married above my station. After all, he's so outstanding. While I seem so ordinary, he's diligent and ambitious, with striking good looks, and became the director of the coal mine factory at a young age. As for me, it's only because of a childhood betrothal that I had the chance to stand by his side. I smiled and said firmly, "If he runs off, so be it. What's mine is mine, and what isn't, I won't force. If his heart is no longer here, what's the point of staying together? Besides, free love is all the rage now. I can always find someone else." Perhaps startled by my words, the teacher patted me on the shoulder and reminded me to keep my voice down and not to speak too confidently. He whispered, "Jiang Huai is a rare good man, with a great job and good prospects. If you really think that way, then when Jiang Huai runs away, don't come crying to me." I paused and replied, "He won't." After leaving school, I followed the crowd and headed home. 2 years ago, Jiang Huai got into the coal mine factory, and the villagers all said, "He won't marry you, a country bumpkin. He'll definitely find a pretty girl in the city. He'll definitely find a pretty girl in the city." Hearing those words back then, I immediately panicked to marry Jiang Huai. I gave up the college entrance exam and traveled alone from my hometown to the coal mine factory in the city where he worked, insisting on marrying him. We hadn't seen each other for 3 years, and we both felt a bit like strangers, but in the end, he followed his parents' wishes, submitted a marriage application to his workplace, and married me. At first, everything seemed to go as I had hoped. Our relationship grew closer and closer, and we became known as a loving couple in his workplace. However, when I saw with my own eyes that Jiang Huai had split half of his just received salary to give to Xiaoya and her daughter, everything began to change. That evening, Jiang Huai came home as usual, placing half the usual amount of grain and meat coupons in front of me, saying, "The factory also issued, here's 2 ounces of white sugar, make sure to put it away." His voice was still clear and cold once. The sound of his voice filled me with joy, but now, looking up at his handsome profile, I felt nothing at all. Maybe I was just tired. I unconsciously touched the scar on my forehead, left from half a year ago when I discovered he had secretly given our grain and meat coupons to his brother's widow, and he pushed me into a ditch. That was how I got it. I stopped looking at him, got up, and went to the kitchen to cook. He finished washing up as usual, changed into his regular clothes, and came to the kitchen to help me. My hand, stirring the wok, paused. Who would have thought that this promising young director at the coal mine would turn out to be such a gentle and considerate, loving husband at home? Once, I also thought I was very lucky. But when I saw that the casual clothes he changed into were not the gray shirt I had bought, my hand, holding the spatula, still trembled uncontrollably. I tried hard to hold back my tears, telling myself not to cry, yet the spatula slipped from my hand. I left the kitchen. Jiang Huai glanced at me, took the spatula, and continued cooking, saying, "I know you love spicy food, so I added extra chili to this dish. Eat more." He took off the apron, served the meal, and placed it in front of me, playing the role of a good man as always. If it weren't for the lies he spun, claiming that the monthly food and meat coupons were all sent to his in-laws, if I hadn't witnessed with my own eyes him handing over his hard-earned wages to his brother's widow, if he hadn't cruelly pushed me into a stinking ditch for the sake of another woman, I would never have believed that such outrageous acts could come from the same person. I took a deep breath and told myself that since this man no longer had a place for me in his heart, I should bravely let go. Just then, a knock came at the door. Without guessing, I knew it was Xiaoya bringing her child to freeload a meal at our place again. I didn't move. Jiang Huai got up to open the door and welcome them in. Xiaoya's sweet and gentle voice came through, "Sister-in-law, sorry to bother you again." She was wearing a bright red trench coat, her skin fair, and her oval face was particularly striking, exuding an irresistible charm in every move she made. Her daughter seemed already accustomed to the environment here. Seeing that the meal was ready, she cheered happily and skillfully picked up a bowl to scoop rice from the pot. She first filled a bowl for herself, then carefully filled one for Xiaoya as well. The mother and daughter sat down at the table, chatting and laughing with Jiang Huai as if they were the real family, while I had become the extra person in this home. However, an accident occurred when the 3 of them started eating. Xiao Xiaobao suddenly spat out the food, shouting as he did, "It's so spicy, it's killing me." Xiaoya also frowned deeply, although she didn't say anything. It was clear from her expression that she was also enduring the sting of the chili. As for me, I continued eating as if nothing had happened, ignoring their distress. Seeing this, Jiang Huai quickly served a bowl of soup to both mother and daughter. Unexpectedly, after drinking the hot soup, they felt even spicier. In the end, Xiaoya left our house carrying Xia Xiaobao, who was crying pitifully. As she left, she said to Jiang Huai in a tearful voice, "Sister-in-law probably doesn't welcome me. I won't come anymore." Jiang Huai saw them to the door and returned inside, his brows tightly furrowed. I pretended not to see him and continued eating my meal. "Did you do that on purpose?" Jiang Huai's tone carried a hint of doubt. Without lifting my head, I replied, "The dishes you cooked." He seemed taken aback, and after a moment, slowly said, "I only cooked one dish." Jiang Huai sighed and began repeating the excuse he had already worn thin. Before Songqing passed away, he held my hand and asked me to take good care of them. "Xiaoya, a woman raising a child alone, has a hard life, so naturally I need to show more concern. You're a great cook. Xiaobao also loves the food you cook." Songqing was Jiang Huai's close friend and subordinate, who tragically died in a coal mine collapse. Songqing's wife, Xiaoya, was originally a city girl who couldn't carry heavy loads nor lift light ones. After Songqing's death, the lives of her and her daughter fell into hardship. Jiang Huai recalled the first time he saw Xiaoya. She was wearing coarse clothes, eating burnt and blackened food with a face covered in dust while holding a feverish child in her arms. At that moment, he felt shocked and guilty, believing he had failed to live up to Songqing's entrustment. So he told me that taking care of Xiaoya was his responsibility, and he had to shoulder it. His eyes were filled with sympathy for Xiaoya. Perhaps he didn't even realize it himself, but whenever he mentioned Xiaoya, his gaze was always full of tenderness. But to me, none of this mattered anymore. I shot him a sidelong glance and asked coldly, "So you pitted her hardships and decided to deceive me? So you gave her half of your salary? So you pushed me into the ditch and even tried to make me serve her and her daughter every day?" My words were resolute, my tone icy, because I had completely lost hope in him. Jiang Huai's expression stiffened as he tried to defend himself. "You were making a scene in the street, and I just wanted to calm you down, so I accidentally pushed you into the sewer. If you kept making such a fuss, what would become of Xiaoya's reputation? She and her child are widowed and orphaned. How could they survive without their good name? I never asked you to wait on them hand and foot every day. I only wanted them to have meals at home. Don't make it sound so harsh." "Listen." The emotions I had suppressed for half a year surged over me like a tidal wave the moment I heard his words, nearly drowning me. "Jiang Huai, doesn't she take half your salary every month? Isn't she living off your support? Am I not telling the truth?" "The truth? Did I say something wrong? I don't know if she can survive without a reputation, but if you keep supporting them like this, we won't be able to get by." Even though I had already decided to let this man go, the resentment of being betrayed still gnawed at my heart. "Have you ever thought about me, about our home, about my reputation, about what I've become in the eyes of our neighbors?" Tears fell like broken beads, unstoppable. Of course he knew, but compared to Xiaoya, all of this was insignificant. Seeing me cry, Jiang Huai instinctively explained in a fluster, "Xiaoya isn't very good at cooking. I just thought your food tastes great. So if they come over to eat, it's just adding 2 more sets of chopsticks and bowls." Seeing me cry so hard, Jiang Huai shook his head, seemingly making a concession. "Since you don't like it, I won't invite them over for meals again." Back in the room, I carefully hid the admission letter. This apartment, with 2 bedrooms and a living room, was allocated by Jiang Huai's work unit. Each of us occupied one room. I flipped through the calendar, found the date for university registration next month, and circled it with a red pen. I looked at the circled date with great anticipation. Soon, I would be able to leave this place. The next day, after Jiang Huai went to work, I started packing my luggage, planning to return to the village in a couple of days to tell my parents the good news that I had been admitted to university and my decision to divorce Jiang Huai. While organizing my belongings, I found the quilt covers and pillows I had secretly embroidered a few years ago. I had originally intended to use them on our wedding night, but Jiang Huai and I never held a wedding ceremony. We simply submitted the marriage registration. We reported our marriage and received the marriage certificate. In fact, we haven't even shared a bed yet. At first, it was because we weren't familiar with each other. Later, he got busy with work, and then there was Xiaoya and her daughter. After thinking for a moment, I decided to put these items into a bag and sell them in the alley at the end of the street. The items I had spent years embroidering only fetched 30 yuan in the end, although it wasn't much money. Food and drink at university would be a huge expense, so this money could just be saved up. When I got home, I drew another big cross on today's date on the calendar. 20 days left. In 20 days, I would be able to leave this place I had lived in for 2 years and step into a brand new life. As for them, I shook my head, deciding not to think about it anymore. They were just insignificant people. Jiang Huai came back very late, yet the prepared meal remained untouched. I already ate at the factory. He offered an explanation, as if casually. I couldn't help but find it amusing. When did the factory start providing meals? Catching the faint scent of perfume on him, I knew that although he had already eaten dinner, it must have been with Xiaoya and her daughter. He knew that coming home to eat would only annoy me, so he took them out to eat before returning. I silently cleared the dishes and went back to the room. The room was filled with my high school books and exam papers, which I bundled together. Since we were about to get a divorce, it was no longer appropriate for any of my belongings to remain here. As I was tidying up, I heard a knock on the door. I knew it was Jiang Huai. He had always been very respectful toward me and would never set foot in my room without my permission. What's wrong? I didn't want him to see me packing, so I asked. After a moment of silence outside, he said, "Are you angry?" I glanced at the packed luggage and replied calmly, "No, I just miss my parents. I plan to go back and visit them tomorrow." There was another long silence outside before I finally heard the sound of footsteps walking away. I let out a cold laugh and leaned against the bed, lost in thought. Angry? Did Jiang Huai think I was a wooden or clay statue of a bodhisattva, devoid of feelings? Were the things he did, one after another, the actions a husband should take? What reason did I have to accept a husband who was two-faced, gave away most of his salary to other women, and had no place for me in his heart? A husband like that. Before Songqing died, I truly believed I had found the happiness I had always dreamed of. My in-laws watched me grow up and treated me like their own daughter. Jiang Huai was the man every girl in our village dreamed of marrying. He was handsome and successful in his career, and he treated me with great care and affection. Anyone with eyes could see that my heart had long been completely devoted to him. After we got married, he entrusted all his assets to me, and I thought I was enjoying a life of love and envy that others admired. However, after Songqing passed away, he claimed to send half of his salary to his in-laws, but in reality, he secretly gave the money to another woman. When I discovered the truth and confronted him, he actually pushed me into a stinking ditch, causing a head injury during my hospitalization. He showed no concern for me, leaving me lying alone in the hospital while he busied himself taking care of that woman's daughter. The neighbors all saw him running around for that woman and praised him for his deep brotherly affection. Indeed, he devoted far too much attention to his brother's wife. The frightening thing is that he took all of this for granted, believing he was merely fulfilling a promise to his deceased brother by taking care of his widow. In his eyes, my resistance and questioning were nothing but unreasonable fuss. In this world, the most terrifying thing is not the inability to distinguish right from wrong, but self-deception. But now, I no longer care. Since he wants to be good to someone else's wife and care about someone else's wife, then let him be. The next morning when I got up, I was surprised to find that Jiang Huai had already prepared breakfast, my favorite poached eggs and congee with lean meat. This was a rare sight over the past 2 years, as I seldom saw him get up early to cook. After all, he has trouble getting out of bed. I always had to make breakfast and call him for a long time before he would reluctantly get up. I sat down quietly, and the only sound at the table was the occasional clink of a spoon against the bowl. Jiang Huai suddenly looked up and suggested, "I'll take a day off and go home with you." I was taken aback and instinctively shook my head. He frowned at me and said, "I'll drive you there. I won't feel at ease if you go back alone." I was about to agree, thinking it would be foolish not to take advantage, but then I caught sight of Xiaoya. Huai, she called out, her face full of anxiety, but her outfit, a bright red dress, a brown trench coat, and even the strands of hair casually falling behind her ears all revealed the intellectual beauty she had carefully styled. Jiang Huai instinctively stood up and looked out the door. Not seeing the small figure following her, he asked with concern, "Why isn't Xiaobao here? Did something happen?" She held back her tears, nodded, and said helplessly, "Xiaobao has a high fever. I don't know what to do." Jiang Huai was so anxious that he didn't even put on his scarf. He grabbed his coat and was about to head out. "Wait, I'll go with you." Xiaoya helped him straighten his coat, even carefully pulling out the collar, her gaze challenging and smug as she looked at me. Just as Jiang Huai was about to put on his shoes and leave, she hesitated and tugged at his sleeve. Jiang Huai asked, confused, "What's wrong?" Xiaoya glanced at me timidly, a struggle in her eyes. Huai. Maybe we shouldn't go. I'm afraid sister-in-law might misunderstand." She looked at me, then at Jiang Huai, tears streaming down her face, and gritted her teeth as she turned to leave. "Xiaoya," Jiang Huai called out to her, turning to chase after her, but as if something occurred to him, He turned back and glanced at me. I watched their emotional tug-of-war with cold detachment. A conflicted look appeared on Jiang Huai's face, and finally, his face reddening, he said to me, Xiaobao is sick, I have to go check on him, you take the bus and be careful. With that, he hurriedly left. I sneered, the free ride had fallen through, it looked like I'd have to take the bus home myself. I picked up the pen and walked back to the calendar, fiercely drawing a big cross on today's date. 19 days left. I hurriedly cleared out all the books in the house, sold them, and with the 13 yuan I got, I set off on the journey back to the village. On the road, when I got home, I told my parents everything that had happened in the past 6 months without holding anything back. Since I had decided to divorce Jiang Huai, there would inevitably be gossip in the village, so I needed to prepare my parents mentally in advance. After listening to my account, my father let out a deep sigh, as if he had expected this all along. My mother, on the other hand, was furious. That bastard, how dare he betray my daughter? I'm going to settle the score with him. She stormed off to the kitchen to grab something and confront Jiang Huai's parents, but luckily my father stopped her. Forget it, old woman, he gently patted his mother's back. Back then, when Mumu gave up the college entrance exam for that guy, I knew this day might come. If it weren't for the fact that the Qing couple treated Mumu well, and Mumu was dead set on marrying him, I would never have agreed. Since that bastard has someone else in his heart, let's get the divorce done as soon as possible, so we don't delay Mumu from going to college. Mumu's future is the most important thing. We'll deal with the rest later. My mother gripped my father's hand tightly. The joy of her daughter finding her way back and being admitted to college again couldn't erase the pain in her heart. This woman, who had toiled for her children for half her life, said with tears in her eyes and a choked voice, that heartless bastard, I really misjudged him, and he ruined my daughter's life. Seeing my gloomy expression, she quickly wiped away her tears, gently patted my head, and comforted me. It's okay, nowadays everyone believes in free love, right? You'll definitely find someone better in college. My parents, holding back their own sorrow, comforted me for a long time before going to discuss it with my 3 older brothers. My brothers were hot-tempered. If not dissuaded, they might have rushed into town overnight to teach Jiang Huai a lesson. I returned to my room, exhausted. Lying in bed, I closed my eyes, but tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. Actually, I didn't want to cry. After all, everything was in the past, and I had made up my mind to let go of that man. But that was all the throbbing of my youth, the Jiang Huai I had loved so sincerely and passionately. After learning that the man I loved had been betrothed to me since childhood, I spent every day dreaming of our future, every vision ending in growing old together. When my mother came to see me, my eyes were already swollen from crying. She held me as she did when I was a child, and I fell asleep in her arms. She whispered, my dear, you are still young, with a long life ahead of you. A failed marriage does not mean a failed life. Your mother is not well educated and has never left this land, but I hope you can go out and see the world beyond, to meet more, better people. Your parents and brothers all hope you can be happy. When I woke up the next morning, none of my brothers were home. It wasn't until I returned to the city that I found out what they had done for me. I stayed with them for half a month and told them to keep it a secret from my in-laws. Before I left, they walked me all the way to the village entrance, repeatedly urging me to take care of myself and to let them know if I ever felt wronged. When I arrived at the town to buy a bus ticket, I discovered they had secretly slipped me 200 yuan. At that moment, tears streamed down my face once again. After returning, I immediately marked 15 heavy crosses on the calendar. 4 more days to go, only 4 days left. I was pulling my suitcase, about to head back to my room, when I heard the sound of a door opening. Jiang Huai had just come home from work, and surprisingly, Xiaoya and Xiaobao were following behind him. He looked visibly surprised when he saw me. You're back. Xiaoya maintained a reserved demeanor, giving me a slight nod before turning and walking into my room. I frowned as I watched her close my door with practiced ease. And those things of mine, casually piled up in the living room. I turned to Jiang Huai, my eyes asking a question. Jiang Huai hesitated for a moment, as if only then realizing something. I don't know what got into your brothers, but they went to Xiaoya's house, hit me, and smashed things up, which caused the rain a couple of days ago. At that time, her home had a leak, so they came to stay for a couple of days. You weren't around, and there wasn't much stuff, so I went ahead and let Xiaoya have your room. Is this his reason for moving my belongings out without my consent and letting someone else stay there? Seeing that I remained silent, he paused for a moment and then added, by the way, you can move your things into my room first, and you can share it with me. Let's live together. With that, he opened the bedroom door. By the way, where are your books, quilt covers, and pillows? Why do you only have so few things? I pursed my lips as I looked at the small bundle he had casually placed on the bedside table. Alright, this house has always been his, how he chooses to arrange it has nothing to do with me, I calmly explained. The college entrance exam is over, and keeping the books is useless, so I sold them. Jiang Hui frowned. Are you confident you'll pass this time? He seemed to finally remember something and asked me excitedly, Mumu, did you get into college? I nodded. Of course, he knew about my decision to retake the college entrance exam. He would occasionally tutor me, but every time before we could finish a few problems, he would be called away by Xiaoya. Upon hearing my confirmation, he hugged me excitedly. Which school did you apply to? Is it local? If it's local, it's close to home, and I can take care of you if anything comes up. I pressed my lips together tightly and didn't answer. Seeing my silence, he was about to press further. I said softly, I'm tired. Jiang Hui didn't think much of it and just nodded gently. Then get some good rest. He walked a few steps away, then turned back and said, I'll go cook, I'll call you when it's ready. After he closed the door, I looked around his room. 2 years ago, I had longed to share a room with him, but he always turned me down with various excuses. Now, because of Xiaoya and her daughter, I've moved in. What a bitter irony. From outside the door came the sound of the three of them chatting, the man's voice low, the woman's soft and sweet, the child's innocent and lively. I sat silently on the chair, thinking, since I plan to divorce him, isn't it inappropriate to keep living together? I had been on the road all day and wanted to rest early, but Xia Xiaobao seemed full of energy, dancing in the living room in a white dress, even laying out a mat to stretch her legs. She kept running into Jiang Hui's room, bouncing on his bed as if it were a trampoline. I had to make an excuse to fetch water, so I picked up my wash basin and walked out. As soon as I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Mumu, why are you back? Didn't you say you were going back to your hometown to visit your parents? When fifth sister-in-law next door saw me come out, she also grabbed her wash basin and followed me toward the well. I stayed there for a few days and just came back today. Fifth sister-in-law is a neighbor. Her husband works as a director at a steel plant, and their family lives quite comfortably. Whenever she has something delicious, she always shares some with me, so we have a pretty good relationship. Hey, I was just saying, how did you, fifth sister-in-law seemed to have something to say. She glanced behind me and pulled me to walk faster. It wasn't until we reached the well that she shook her head and poked my forehead. How can you be so foolish? Is that woman a good thing? Her husband is dead, and she's still flaunting herself everywhere. How could you bring her into your home? You're Jiang Hui, such a good man, is a coveted prize that everyone wants a bite of, and you're bringing him home. Are you stupid or what? As fifth sister-in-law rambled on, I finally understood that Jiang Hui had brought them back, claiming it was my idea. He said I felt sorry for Xiaoya and her daughter, who had suffered misfortune, so before I returned to my parents' home, I had him bring them over. I sneered. Jiang Hui was just using me as a shield to avoid being blamed. I confessed everything to fifth sister-in-law. After hearing me out, she cursed Jiang Hui for nearly 10 minutes and gave me plenty of advice. Worried that Xiaoya might bully me, she even offered to face the situation together with me. I appreciated her kindness but told her I would handle it myself and not to worry. When I returned to the room, the living room was empty. I grabbed my clothes and headed to the bathroom, only to find it cluttered with many feminine products that didn't belong to me. The soap and towel I usually used were carelessly piled up in a corner, right next to the trash can. In their place were a large and a small towel along with toiletries. Sister-in-law, Xiaobao really needs to use the bathroom. Could you please move aside? Suddenly, someone shoved me hard from behind, and my head hit the doorframe again. Xiaoya was already holding Xia Xiaobao in the corner, letting him relieve himself. After she finished helping Xia Xiaobao, she saw me still standing at the door and said in a gentle tone, Sister-in-law, could you please step aside? You're blocking me. But her eyes were full of triumph and contempt. I didn't budge and said coldly, apologize. Xiaoya was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so tough. Xia Xiaobao had always been hostile toward me. Seeing the tension between me and her mother, she stepped forward and gave me a hard shove, then pointed at me and burst into tears. Bad guy, you're bullying my mom, you wicked woman. Jiang Hui heard Xia Xiaobao's cries and rushed out of the room. What's wrong? What happened? He picked up the child with concern, while Xiaoya put on a pitiful look. It's all my fault, all my fault. Xiaobao needed to pee urgently, and my sister-in-law was in the bathroom. I wanted to ask her to make way, and then, Xiaoya's explanation came out in a tearful voice. Jiang Hui immediately looked at me with reproach. Although he didn't say anything in front of Xiaoya, his actions had already made it clear. He took a stand while coaxing Xia Xiaobao. He said, there, Xiaobao, don't cry. Your godfather will scold auntie later and make her apologize to you, okay? Seeing that the child was still fussing, he carried him back into the house, saying he would give him some candy. Xiaoya shot me a sarcastic smile and followed Jiang Huai back into the house. As the crying gradually faded, I washed up expressionlessly and packed my toiletries into the wash basin. When I returned to the room, Xiaoya had already taken the child into their room. Seeing me come in, Jiang Huai paused in his packing and said, "Have a seat." I knew he wanted to talk to me, probably saying things like she's just a child, don't hold it against her, she'll grow up and understand. And for now I should go apologize to the child. I obediently sat down, gently wiped the injured spot on my head with a tissue, and handed the blood-stained tissue to him. The sound in his throat stopped abruptly, and his face turned ugly. "I'll sleep in the living room." I picked up the blanket and opened the door. Jiang Huai thought I was still upset about what just happened, sighed, and pulled me back into the room. "Xiaobao is still a child, and Xiaoya didn't mean it. You're already 20 years old. Don't hold a grudge against a child. I know you don't like Xiaoya, but she's not having an easy time either. Don't be too petty, okay?" I let out a cold laugh and retorted, "So you brought them back and said it was my idea." Jiang Huai's expression changed, but he still defended himself. "Isn't that all thanks to your brothers? If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have brought Xiaoya over." Twisting the truth was what he did best, and I wasn't going to argue with him anymore. I looked straight at him and smiled. I heard my own voice say, "Jiang Huai, let's get a divorce." Jiang Huai jerked his head up, staring at me in disbelief. Why, no matter how high-sounding your words are, they cannot change the restlessness and dirty thoughts in your heart." I remained silent. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Is it because of Xiaoya?" He seemed deeply wronged and eager to explain, but all he could say were the same old clichés. I cut him off directly. "Jiang Huai, the way you deceive yourself really makes you look like a clown." Jiang Huai opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. That night, Jiang Huai spent the night in the living room. When I woke up the next day, I found Xiaoya and her daughter packing their luggage. I didn't plan to pay them any attention, but Xiaoya blocked my way and said, "Huai has renovated the house for me. It must be. It cost quite a bit of money." She covered her mouth with a smile, her eyes full of pride, and then asked, "Sister-in-law, you don't mind, do you?" I replied with a smile, "Of course not. My husband hands over half his salary to you and takes such good care of you and your daughter. What's a little money like this?" I continued. "How about this? You have him divorce me. Otherwise, you know, if his workplace finds out about you too, Jiang Huai won't come out of it well, and your support will probably be gone." Xiaoya's proud expression vanished instantly, and she said viciously, "Don't get too cocky. No matter what, you can't compete with me." With that, she slammed the door shut. Xiaoya's hostility toward me always came to the surface when Jiang Huai wasn't around. In the evening, I unexpectedly received a call from my mother-in-law. She asked me why I had returned to my hometown without visiting them, and whether I had a falling out with Jiang Huai. I remained silent. The mother-in-law on the other end of the line seemed to sense something, sighed, and hung up. Xiaoya and her mother had moved out, and I returned to my own room. The next day, I went to the street and bought a very trendy bright red woolen suit, along with a lipstick, planning to dress up nicely when I went to the university. I wanted to look my best. When I went home to try on the new clothes, a figure suddenly appeared in the mirror. Jiang Huai looked at me, his eyes lighting up. "Mumu, you should dress yourself up more often. You look great like this." I didn't respond and silently changed out of the clothes. This is the first sentence Jiang Huai has spoken to me since I filed for divorce. The ridiculous thing was that in the 2 years of our marriage, I had never dressed myself up. I was only 20, at the prime age for loving beauty, yet I always wore coarse cotton clothes, thinking I could help him save some money. During these 3 days, Jiang Huai rarely stayed at home. Even though Xiaoya came looking for him several times, he didn't go out. On the evening of the last day, Jiang Huai seemed to want to say something to me, but was interrupted by a small figure who came running in late at night. Godfather, Chia Xiaobao, with disheveled hair, rushed straight into Jiang Huai's arms. As soon as he entered, Jiang Huai instinctively looked toward the door. "Xiaobao, it's so late. Why did you come alone? Where's your mom?" Chia Xiaobao said in a tearful voice, muttering, "Godfather, mommy is sick. She's been sleeping, and no matter how much Xiaobao calls, she won't wake up." Upon hearing this, Jiang Huai immediately became anxious. Holding Chia Xiaobao in his arms, he looked at me with a troubled expression on his face while comforting the crying child. Jiang Huai said to me, "I'll go check on her. I'll definitely be back tonight. Wait for me." He left with Chia Xiaobao in his arms. Watching his retreating figure, I decided to write down in a letter what I had originally planned to say tonight. Aside from his neglect of the family after Songqing left, and his entanglement with Qiao Yeah, looking at just these 2 years of our marriage, he supported my livelihood, didn't require me to work, refrained from being intimate with me considering my young age, encouraged me to retake the college entrance exam, and even sometimes tutored me with my homework. Based on this, I should clarify things between him and me. In the letter, I expressed my determination to get a divorce, called out his affair with Chaya, and hoped he would agree to the divorce, and also told him the university I had applied to. I also told him that if he agreed to the divorce, he should write to me at the university I was about to attend, and I would go back then. The next day, I left the letter on the table, dragged my luggage, and headed to the train station. The 2-day train journey was bumpy and swaying, and I could only doze off in a half-awake, half-asleep state. Finally, after a series of jolts, I arrived at the school and let out a long sigh of relief after completing the enrollment procedures. A tense academic life immediately followed. A month later, I received a letter from Jiang Huai. In the letter, he firmly stated that he would not agree to a divorce. He claimed that he still loved me. He also explained that there was nothing between him and Xiaoya, and knowing that I disliked her, he promised never to see her again. He hoped that I would come back. I put the letter away and did not reply. Jiang Huai sent a letter every month, and I received each one without ever responding. In the last month of the semester, he mentioned that he would come to accompany me and take me home. However, Jiang Huai did not show up as promised. In the letter, he suddenly agreed to the divorce and asked me to come home. It was the end of the semester, so I returned home. From my brothers, I learned that Xiaoyu was pregnant, and her family had come to make a scene, demanding that Jiang Huai take responsibility. Rumors spread everywhere. For the sake of his own future and reputation, Jiang Huai had no choice but to agree to divorce me. The next time I saw Jiang Huai was at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The first thing he said to me was, "I'm sorry." Then he told me that those rumors were deliberately spread by Xiaoya because she wanted Jiang Huai to marry her. So Xiaoya resorted to extreme measures, sacrificing her own reputation and Jiang Huai's future. She achieved her goal. She forced Jiang Huai to marry her. Jiang Huai covered his face and wept, tears falling amid his sobs. Moo moo. I truly regret it so much. Looking at him, I suddenly felt grateful that when I was young and naive, he had sternly rejected my attempts to get close to him. Otherwise, if we had had a child together, this marriage, whether it ended or continued, would have been a tragedy. The moment I got the divorce certificate, I finally felt relieved. No matter how painful or disappointing this marriage had been, it was all in the past. I was ready to embrace a new life of my own. After graduation, I devoted myself to the nation's development. I would dedicate this life to my country, asking not for direction, nor counting the cost of return. I would remain steadfast and unwavering until the very end of my life. Jiang Huai's side story. After leaving that day, I took Xiaoya to the hospital. By the time she received treatment, it was already 3 or 4 in the morning. Xiaoya advised me to rest at the hospital since it was so late and go back tomorrow. Thinking it was late and Mumu was already asleep, I agreed. Little did I know, when I returned the next day, I would never see her again. I went to Mumu's room and found the letter she had left behind. In the letter, she said she wanted a divorce. She accused me of always approaching Xiaoya under the pretense of taking care of my deceased brother's widow. She said that if Songjing knew how I was taking care of his wife, he would be so furious he'd rise from the underworld. Reading her letter, I reflected a lot. I realized my mistake. While waiting for Mumu to grow up, my heart began to waver each time I helped Xiaoya. My heart strayed further. Xiaoya's thoughtfulness and Xiaoba's cheerful and adorable nature made me overlook the fact that I already had a wife, leading me to do something I am even ashamed of myself. Seeing the place where she went to college, she had gone so far away just to avoid me. I immediately wrote her a letter, but she never replied. That night, I drank too much, and Xiaoya sneaked into the house in a drunken state. I mistook her for Mumu and made an irreversible mistake. A month later, Xiaoya became pregnant. She started making a scene, and her family came to our doorstep to cause trouble. Suddenly, rumors about Xiaoya and me began spreading among the neighbors and around the factory. In the end, I had no choice but to divorce Mumu and marry Xiaoya. After marrying Xiaoya, she seemed to become a completely different person. Always on edge, several opportunities for promotion slipped away because of her outbursts. Watching my friends get promoted one after another while I remained stuck in the same place, she called me a failure. In the end, my life with Xiaoya reached a point where we could only loathe each other. I often can't help but wonder if things would have been different if I hadn't provoked Xiaoya in the first place. I have no way of knowing the answer. It's just that my entire life has truly been meaningless. Story 2. During the spring festival, while setting off fireworks with my friends, I accidentally blew up my ex-boyfriend's car. My ex-boyfriend shot me a glare that felt like a sharp sword. Breaking up means you can take revenge by burning my car, The friend who'd suggested setting off the fireworks couldn't help but shout, "No, why is his car parked in your neighborhood?" I stared in horror at the dilapidated electric scooter in front of me. "Did Wade bankrupt your family after breaking up? This is what you ride." "Yeah, bankrupt." Wade pointed at the cigarette butt-sized hole on the seat, his tone cold. "It's burned. Pay up." He fiddled with his phone for a few seconds and then held it out in front of me. "Only accept credit card payments." Subconsciously, I took out my phone and scanned it. His profile picture popped up on the screen. "Tap this." Wade quickly tapped accept with lightning speed. I remembered that I'd deleted all his contact information when we broke up. My bestie beside me was exasperated. "No. Couldn't he just show you the payment code? Why did he have to add you on Instagram? Could it be that someone still has feelings left?" Grace drew out her words, winking at the two of us. Wade's expression didn't change. "Actually, I have a side job." I looked down and saw, written clearly on his Instagram, $999 per month. So cheap. Subconsciously, I sized Wade up, standing over 1.8 meters tall, with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and long legs, even in a cheap shirt and jeans. He exuded an inescapable charm. What's more, I'd seen his well-defined abs and Adonis belt under his shirt. "So young and doing this," I mumbled, transferring $2,000 to him as I spoke. "1 month to start." Grace shook my shoulders frantically. "Cora, we said no giving in to temptation even when rich." "But he's bankrupt." Back when Wade had money because of his wealthy family, he'd often made me angry. Now that the tables had turned, I was definitely going to get my revenge. I grabbed Wade's tie, and he bent down slightly following my pull. "Perform well, good boy." He furrowed his brows, his face cold. "Cora, what do you think I am? Aren't you in that line of work?" I pinched his chest muscles and patted his face as a reward. "Are you going to do it or not?" Wade's face was ashen as he spat out one word. "Yes." Wade pushed the electric scooter, following me. "From now on, you have to wash my clothes and cook for me every day. You need to be at my beck and call whenever I need you. You can't go to sleep until I do. And you must have breakfast ready when I wake up," I chattered away as I opened the door to my villa. Turning around, I was shocked to see Wade pushing his broken scooter inside. "What are you doing?" He calmly pointed at the seat. "This is burned. When it rains, water will seep into the sponge, and I won't be able to ride it." For once, I was speechless. When we were together, Wade was so extravagant. He'd change his watch to match different outfits every day, and he'd never wear a tie twice. Even when I casually mentioned that I liked men wearing shirt stays, he bought a whole row of various styles and changed them daily. Thinking about it now, I really ate well back then. Now that Wade is bankrupt, I'll eat even better. I randomly took out a pair of men's slippers from the shoe cabinet and told him to put them on. Wade froze, staring at the gray slippers. He gritted his teeth. "Why do you have men's slippers at home? What, don't they fit?" I thought he was just looking for trouble. Wade lost his temper and snapped, "How many other men have you hired besides me?" I slapped him across the face. "Why do you care so much? Is this the attitude you should have towards your benefactor?" The imposing air Wade had mustered up was shattered by me. Covering his face, his eyes slowly reddened. "Cora, you didn't treat me like this before. I used to make you wear furry ears and bark like a dog. Do you still want to do it?" He didn't say a word, turning his head away aggrievedly. Revealing half of his chiseled profile, I stared at his slightly flushed cheeks in a daze. This super cool and pretentious guy, now with his head down and tears in his eyes. The contrast made him look even more alluring. From behind came the lazy voice of my childhood friend who just returned from abroad. "Cora, when's dinner?" Xavier walked out of the bedroom in his pajamas, eyes still sleepy. Wade turned his head in disbelief, his hands shaking as if he had Parkinson's. "How many men have you hired?" I gave him a strange look. "Do you guys in this line of work even have possessive streaks?" "Well, even so." Wade closed his eyes in embarrassment, his tone like a full-on bitter woman. "Since you have him, why hire me?" "Because you're cheap." "Just because I'm cheap means you don't have to cherish me." He was on the verge of breaking down. "Then go." I casually pointed at the door. "Fine, I'll go." Wade pushed the scooter, struggling to turn around. He walked unsteadily, like a 60-year-old man. Xavier, hearing the commotion, walked to the door and naturally put his hand on my shoulder. "Cora, where are my underwear?" Wade's hands gripping the handlebars were so tense that the veins bulged. He received a call like an alarm bell, then turned back stiffly, forcing a smile. "My second uncle said there's going to be a fire at home tonight. I'm not leaving for now." In the living room, on the spacious leather sofa, Wade squeezed strangely between Xavier and me. "What are you sitting here for? Why aren't you cooking yet?" I gently slapped his face. His skin was smooth, and it felt great. I rubbed my fingers, feeling eager to touch more. Wade's Adam's apple bobbed uncomfortably. He tilted his face towards me naturally, his tone actually sounding aggrieved. What about him? What's he doing while I cook? He's waiting to eat. Of course, Xavier had just been dumped by his boyfriend and was in the middle of a broken heart phase. I'd promised to take good care of him during this time. There was no way I'd let him do any work. Wade was so angry that his eyes reddened. You want me to serve you too? We're all in the same position. Why is he more noble than me? We should compete for the job. I was stunned by his righteous appearance. But Xavier isn't. Xavier suddenly popped his head out, interrupting me. He stared at Wade and me with great interest for a moment, then clung to Wade's arm like a daughter vine. I agreed to compete for the job, but how could I bear to let Big Brother serve? I'll serve Big Brother instead. Wade tried to pull his hand back in horror, while Xavier looked at him innocently with his pink, pouty lips. Big Brother, the fabric of this shirt you're wearing is so poor. Let me help you change into a new one. Xavier scurried to the bedroom to get a new shirt. Brother Wade, you'll look good in this. Take off the one you're wearing. Xavier held the shirt up, looking expectant. Wade subconsciously crossed his arms over his chest and scooted closer to me. I got impatient being squeezed and made a tisk sound. He didn't dare to move. Xavier climbed onto the sofa, scrambling all over. Is Big Brother shy? Let me help you take it off. There was a familiar mischievous glint in his eyes. When we were kids, whenever Xavier looked at someone like this, that person was in for trouble, and because of the cramped space, Wade was really trapped in the corner of the sofa. His face was flushed with excitement as he reached out towards me desperately. Cora, this is definitely unfair competition. You have to do something. I saw a mix of surprise, shame, and a plea for help in Wade's eyes. I didn't quite understand, but still instinctively came to help Xavier. The two of us groped around, having a great time stripping him. Wade clutched his chest muscles tightly, looking like a chaste martyr. Stop this. Oh no, it's torn. Xavier held a piece of fabric innocently. Brother, I'm a bit too strong. You won't blame me, will you? He'd torn off a long strip, and the remaining fabric couldn't cover much. Wade was barely maintaining his last shred of dignity, with teardrops hanging from his lashes, as if accusing me of being a heartless woman. Xavier sized up Wade's exposed skin with wide eyes, envy in his gaze. Brother, how did you get this scar on your shoulder? He pretended to be curious. I coughed awkwardly because I bit him there once. Wade was so excited that he wouldn't listen to me, so I bit his shoulder hard while crying. I never thought it would still be there. I want a scar like that too, Xavier said with a hint of yearning. I was shocked and finally realized my childhood friend's sexual orientation, so, in the blink of an eye, I sat on Wade's lap, wrapping my legs around his waist, firmly blocking Xavier's lewd gaze. Lucky girl. Xavier angrily tried to pull me down. I think Big Brother's pants don't fit either. Let's change them together. He seemed determined to give me a thorough inspection. Wade was so scared that he hugged me tightly, not daring to let go. Cora, don't go. Being so close, his rapid breaths were hitting my ear. The body in front of me was warm, and without the cover of clothes, his heartbeat was crystal clear. I'll wear dog ears for you. Rabbit ears are okay too, he added in a whisper. And shirt stays. You can touch my abs. Make him go away. At that moment, many indescribable memories flooded my mind. Shamefully, I was tempted. Wait, I blocked Xavier's outstretched hand, looking extremely embarrassed. What we're doing is really wrong. You just want to touch his abs. Xavier looked at me speechlessly. How could we treat Wade like this? I forced myself to keep acting. So, you want to do more than just touch his abs? Xavier seemed to be deep in thought. How could I be that kind of person? I slapped Wade's thigh angrily, looking very righteous. Go open the bedroom door for us. Wade hugged me tightly and moved cautiously towards the bedroom, looking at Xavier following us closely. He was on guard. What are you following us for? Xavier ignored him and instead shook my arm. Sister, can I lie between you two later? I buried my head in Wade's chest muscles, playing dead. My warm, damp breath sprayed on his firm, full skin, and Wade's breathing grew rapid too. What are you two doing? I'm still here. Xavier was exasperated. He shook my shoulders desperately, trying to awaken my conscience. Cora, have you forgotten our agreement? Do you remember what you said when you were drunk? It hasn't been that long. Have you forgotten it all? I awkwardly wriggled upwards. That happened not long after I broke up with Wade. I dragged Xavier out to drink every day. When I was drunk, I grabbed the microphone and went on a drunken rant. There are so many men in the world. Why should I hang myself on one tree? But now, actually, I just wanted to toy with my ex-husband a bit. However, Wade, who must have imagined some wild scenarios, held me up possessively. He then advised Xavier in the tone of someone who'd been through it. How can you take a woman's words in bed seriously, do you? Think we never had our romantic moments and vows? Once we broke up, she immediately got with you, so today, you should also be more open-minded. But buddy, she knew me before she knew you. Xavier patted his shoulder heavily, giving him a pitying look that said, good luck. Then he left, hands in his pockets. Is what he said true? Wade's hands holding me began to tremble, and his amber, puppy-like eyes quickly filled with a layer of mist. I thought about it. I had indeed known Xavier longer than Wade, so I casually nodded. So I'm actually the— Wade was truly devastated. He put me on the bed, then squatted on the carpet, his eyes red as he questioned life. Are we still doing this? I almost fell asleep waiting. Wade was still struggling with his thoughts. Is this your first time doing this? Calculating the time when Wade's family went bankrupt, I might really be his first benefactor. Thinking of this made me a bit happy, but Wade's eyes grew even redder. He wiped his wet eyelashes hard. Of course it's my first time. Who would do such a disgraceful thing more than once? If I'd known I wouldn't have agreed to be with you. I couldn't make sense of his rambling, so I just poked his hair with my foot. Just give me a straight answer. Are we doing this or not? Unexpectedly, as soon as I got closer, he angrily grabbed my ankle. Yes, he took off his clothes as he walked towards me. His chiseled abs and his strong, sexy waist reappeared in front of me. Long time no see. I greeted him silently in my heart. Soon, the room was in a mess. When things got intense, Wade bit me on the neck, crying, Cora, I really hate you. When I woke up again, it was already midnight. I reached out and felt the empty space beside me. I turned on the light and saw Wade huddled in the corner of the bed, his shoulders twitching in his sleep. I wrapped myself in the quilt and moved closer to play with his eyelashes. Wade had deep double eyelids. When he closed his eyes, the natural curve of his eyelids made him look rather endearing. His long, curly eyelashes tickled my palm, and his full lip bead was slightly pouted, looking a bit wrong. Just as I was about to touch his nose, he opened his eyes without warning. Wife, what are you doing? He had a thick nasal voice when he spoke. I leaned closer and coaxed softly. What about the plush toys, the rabbit ears? Wade still had teardrops on his long eyelashes. He asked stubbornly, will you make him wear these too? I didn't know who he was talking about, but it seemed right to go along with him at this moment. Without hesitation, I said, of course not. He lifted the quilt and peeked inside, his tone sad. Sure enough, I'm just a tool to please you. Only someone in my position would do such undignified things. Then he got up and walked to the wardrobe as if resigned. Are the things still in the old place? I nodded excitedly. Can I get a promotion if I perform well? Promotion? That probably meant a raise. I nodded again. Wade took down a lot of styles in one go. Let's try them all. Looking at the energetic Wade, I hesitated, but I must perform well tonight. His expression was solemn, but my waist, the headboard of the bed soon started creaking. In the second half of the night, I felt both pain and pleasure, and finally understood what it meant to be so indulgent that I didn't want to get up early. At noon the next day, Xavier's loud voice almost shattered the ceiling beams. Cora, your parents are coming over with your little boyfriend. Wade's muscular arm was tightly wrapped around my waist from behind. Last night, when things were heated, he cried and asked me who was better between him and Xavier. I vaguely remembered giving him some random kisses and casually comforting him. Ask Xavier's boyfriend how good he is. Why are you asking me? His movements froze for a moment. Then he realized something and asked again in disbelief. After getting my affirmative answer, he seemed to have taken some kind of stimulant and kissed me even more passionately. After that, Wade was extremely clingy. When it was over, he buried his face in my neck, crying, repeating over and over, wife, you're so nice. Every time I turned over, he would quickly follow and pull me into his arms. At this moment, Xavier's gloating voice clearly reached the bedroom. Wade, who had been sleeping soundly after a tiring night, automatically caught the key words and woke up with a start. Little boyfriend. Wade jumped out of bed, his hair sticking up in all directions, looking like a startled, fluffy puppy. He didn't even have time to put on his clothes before he scrambled up, his face tense. What little boyfriend? There's another boyfriend. I also looked at him blankly and said sincerely, to be honest, I don't know either. Wade let out a sigh of relief and double-checked with me, still a bit hesitant. Really? I'm really not. Right, don't worry, really not. My words stopped abruptly when I saw Sam in the living room. Seeing my guilty expression, Wade completely broke down. Wife, say something. Why am I still? Why am I again? He was extremely frustrated and complained. Does this have to be about who came first? Can't it be about who serves better? His tone rose sharply when he saw Sam. It's you, on the sofa. Sam in a gray coat looked up, the silver spectacle frames glowed warmly in the sunlight. He gently held out his hand to me. Cora, I'm back. For a long time in high school, Sam did hold the status of my boyfriend. He was a well-known top student, winning the school's highest scholarship every year. He came from a poor family, had a cold personality, and was always quietly buried in his study, solving problems, so I never expected that someone who seemed to have no intersection with me would be willing to tutor me. Sam was extremely patient when teaching me. His slender fingers gently tapped on the test paper, and one by one, the difficult questions were quickly solved. Cora, look at the question, he would also tap my forehead with his knuckle when I was distracted. Seeing my pained expression, a faint smile would cross his lips. My grades improved by leaps and bounds from that year, and my pocket money, which had been stopped for 3 months, was restored. Sam, what's your wish? I asked him enthusiastically. Holding my wallet, he stopped writing, was silent for a moment, and then lowered his head again. I can't say it yet. I spent the whole afternoon thinking about how to repay Sam after school. I bumped into him being blocked by a group of delinquent girls in an alley. Cora, can you pretend to be my girlfriend? Sam lowered his eyes, and I couldn't see his expression. You saw it. They always block me at my doorstep, as if afraid I'd refuse. He added quietly, if I get rid of them, I'll have more time to tutor you. Is this your current wish? He said yes, so after thinking for a moment, I happily said, okay. After that, the rumors about us spread like wildfire for several years, evolving into several versions like the rich lady and the poor boy, the Phoenix man climbing the social ladder, and the genius student and his dumb girlfriend. The rumors finally stopped when Sam went abroad for college. Everyone said I was dumped. I know it was you who helped me go abroad. Sam thoughtfully added a glass of water for me, looking natural, as if he were the real master of the house. In the corner of the stairs, Wade was struggling, and Xavier was covering his mouth, looking like he was enjoying the show. I coughed twice and made small talk with Sam. When did you get back? Just yesterday. Uncle and Aunt said you've missed me a lot these years. What? Two voices came from the corner of the stairs simultaneously. The former was excited, the latter was angry, and then there was another round of commotion. I pretended not to hear and continued the conversation. Actually, my family's foundation sponsored many students besides you. Don't feel burdened, damn it. Wade, how dare you pull my hair? Xavier was grimacing not far away. My parents have been so crazy about pushing me to get married lately that they're talking nonsense. Don't take it to heart. Xavier, did you just try to pull my pants down? Shameless. Wade stubbornly covered his butt. I just wanted to say you mustn't. Bang. Enough. I was furious and slapped the coffee table hard. Suddenly, the room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. You two, go fight outside. Wade stopped. He pushed Xavier, who was hanging on him, away and walked to me in a dejected manner. Wife, are you going to kick me out? Who is this? Sam asked at the right time, with a tolerant smile on his face. I thought it wouldn't sound good to directly mention the money deal, so I used a euphemism, a laborer I hired at home. It's just that most of the work might be done in the bedroom. Xavier, who had straightened his clothes, caught up and pulled Wade to sit next to me. Sam nodded understandingly. He gracefully walked around Wade and continued the unfinished words. Cora, I'm not back because I feel indebted. I was called back by Uncle and Aunt. Wade's fingers cracked as he clenched them. Sam ignored it and finished with a smile. I'm back to tell you that we didn't break up before I went abroad. Uncle and Aunt want me to go home with you to pay New Year's calls. Sam politely said goodbye at the door. Wade turned his face away, pretending not to see, and Xavier unexpectedly didn't respond either. I blocked the two behind me and quickly replied to him, don't worry, I'll make it clear to my parents. Sam gently brushed my hair for me. It's just to deal with the elders in the old house. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Even after Sam had walked far away, Wade was still mimicking him in a sarcastic tone. I gave him an annoyed look. Are you childish? Me, childish? Wade got angry again. When I wore the rabbit ears last night. Why didn't you say I was childish? Yeah. Why didn't you say he was childish last night? Xavier chimed in. You two were fighting just now. Have you been possessed? I pretended to touch Xavier's forehead. He quickly dodged. Men and women should keep a proper distance. Cora, damn it. When you hung your underwear in my room because you were afraid of dampness, why didn't you say that? I reached out to twist his ear, but Xavier nimbly avoided it and shyly waved his phone. But Wade introduced his cousin to me. I give up. I walked around them and collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. After the chaotic noon, my waist, which had been working hard all night, started aching. Wade came over pitifully to massage my back. Wife, did you really not break up with him before he went abroad? I nodded. We really didn't, but no one told me that when playing the part of a fake girlfriend, I had to go the whole 9 yards. Damn it, you really didn't. Then why did you agree to be with me? Xavier came over, shocked, to join the gossip. I thought about it carefully and said seriously, because he threw money at me back then, so I'm the one you bought. Wade was so angry that his hair stood on end, but the movement of massaging my back didn't stop. I guess it's the fourth. Then, Xavier added to the chaos, get lost. My wife said you're not. I tilted my head, signaling Wade to move to the left. Unexpectedly, Xavier then said something astonishing. Then why did you two break up in the first place? Now that you mention it, I've got something to say. After massaging my back, Wade tied on an apron and went to the kitchen to make lunch. He pitifully waved the spatula around, telling the childhood friend of his ex-girlfriend about how he got dumped. That day, I got home, specially ordered roses for her, brought her favorite little cakes, and bought the latest necklace. I said, honey, I'm home, and she just said, let's break up. Before I could even react, Cora had rushed out of the house. So you just got dumped like that? Xavier patted his shoulder sympathetically, and Wade sobbed even louder. If you dare to let your snot fall into the pot, you're dead. I stood at the kitchen door with my arms crossed, threatening him with a smile. I need to go to the toilet, buddy. Keep an eye on the stove for me. Wade covered his mouth and rushed out. As he passed by me, a bit of the sobbing he couldn't hold back leaked out. Woo, so why on earth did you two break up? Because he stepped into the house with his left foot first that day. Xavier gave me a look that said, do you think I'm stupid? Fine. I put my arms down and said casually, because he's too insecure. I met Wade at the university sports meeting. He passed out halfway through the 3,000-meter long-distance run. When he fell, I was the only volunteer by his side. At that moment, I rushed over to catch his head before it hit the ground. Then, somehow mustering superhuman strength, I carried Wade all the way to the infirmary. After he woke up, he started to court me ostentatiously, sending flowers, bags, and gifts. Mainly, you know, he looks exactly like my type. Lucky girl. Xavier was indignant, finished with the good points. What about the bad ones? He's too clingy, I said with a solemn face. He'd send me messages at 6 in the morning every day and had to call to say goodnight at night. Once, I forgot to reply to him, and he squatted downstairs in the girls' dormitory, crying for 2 hours. It was so embarrassing. Later, when we lived together, one morning, I was busy with my graduation project in the study. When he woke up and didn't feel me beside him, he rushed into the living room half naked, crying and shouting my name, thinking I'd left. Xavier didn't get it and looked at me with a questioning gaze, asking where the breaking point was. I sighed. You have to understand that I have an avoidant personality and I'm a Cancer with a bad reputation. The feeling of bearing all of another person's joys and sorrows is just too strange. I was busy graduating at that time and really didn't have the energy to provide him with enough emotional support, so I thought it'd be better to separate for a while. Wait a minute, for a while? So you mean, I spread my hands, people like me are like this, what we can't have is always the best. After we broke up, I started to like him again. Xavier mouthed a curse word. Wife, can you please not take Sam home for the New Year's visit? Wade's cooking was so delicious that I was gobbling it up, while also keeping an eye on Xavier, in case he stole my food. When I heard Wade's words and looked up, the last piece of rib was snatched away by Xavier. Smack, I slammed my chopsticks down, my expression solemn. Wade quickly picked up the rib from his bowl and gave it to me, carefully observing my face. My mom just called me. I sighed. What did she say? Wade nervously grasped the edge of the bowl. She said she's never lost when it comes to keeping up with the Joneses, but this year, all my cousins brought their partners home. She told me that I have to bring a man to the family gathering no matter what, or she'll kick me out and adopt Xavier as her son. Cough, cough, cough. Xavier almost choked on the rice. After swallowing the last bite, he exclaimed, Auntie really isn't picky. How about I bring a guy home too, so she can have 2 sons? My mom would faint. I took a bite of the rib with teary eyes. Wife, can't you take me? Wade unconsciously puffed out his chest, looking at me expectantly. You can't. Your profession makes it inauspicious for you to visit during the new year. What do you mean? Xavier kindly explained. She means you're not presentable. Wade was on the verge of crying. Wife, you always discriminate against my profession. What do you think I do in your eyes? Aren't you a male model? The kind that makes those ZZE sounds. Which male model charges $999 a month? Xavier stuck a piece of watermelon. Then what does he do? Game booster. Now it was my turn to be surprised. If that's not what he does, then I slept with him. Wife, can you take me home now? Wade was about to cry again, looking so pitiful. Yes, of course, I can. The family gathering was held at an estate on the outskirts of the city. When I walked in, arm in arm with a neatly dressed Wade, my mom was chatting with a few aunts, grinning from ear to ear. Cora, who's this? A few cousins hesitated and came closer. Shock mixed with admiration in their eyes. He's my boyfriend. Didn't you ask me to bring him to show you? I snuggled closer to Wade, smiling sweetly. But your boyfriend is over there. I was shocked and looked in the direction they pointed. Surrounded by my mom and the others was Sam, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. He was patiently listening to my eldest aunt, nodding and smiling from time to time, looking very elegant. Wife, don't talk. Hold your tears back. I quickly covered Wade's mouth. Looking up, I happened to meet Sam's gaze. He said a few words to my mom, and my mom waved him over without looking back. Soon, Sam walked up to us in big strides. I'm sorry, Cora, I didn't tell you in advance. I was also dragged here by uncle and aunt at the last minute. As soon as he arrived, he immediately apologized to me very politely, making the question that was on the tip of my tongue hard to ask. Sam looked at my hand on Wade's arm, full of apology, and his expression grew even more guilty. Uncle and aunt said you didn't have a boyfriend, and if you did bring one, it'd probably be a fake one you rented. They said rather than waiting for some random guy you found, it'd be better to let me fill in for a day. After that, he glanced at Wade and explained politely, I'm just repeating what uncle and aunt said. I didn't mean anything against this gentleman. Wade tugged at my sleeve and whispered in my ear, Wife, when did he talk about me? I gave him an annoyed look. Zip it. He obediently shut up. Sam suddenly took 2 steps forward, bent slightly, blocking my view. Sorry, Auntie is looking over. He lowered his head slightly, pretending to brush my hair, and asked in a low voice, Cora, did you ever open the reference books I gave you before I went abroad? No. Who reads books after graduating? Sam really underestimated the bottom line of us underachievers. Okay, I got it. There was bitterness in his voice, and then he chuckled, saying something that left me confused. Even though we missed our chance, I still want to give it another try. What do you? Before I could finish, he suddenly stepped aside. Coincidentally, my mom, who had just turned her head, saw the scene here. Cora, my mom, covered in tinkling jewelry, rushed towards me. In previous years, you never brought a boyfriend when I asked you to. This year, you brought back 2. I was so scared that I let go of Wade and started running around. You're not suitable for her. Sam put away the gentle smile that usually graced his face. Wade didn't get it, but seeing my dad with a wine glass not far away, he walked straight over and greeted him warmly. Aren't you the young master of the family? Not anymore. I was kicked out of the family tree by my uncle half a month ago. Wade rushed up to hold my dad's hand and introduced himself bravely. Uncle, no, Dad, I have an elder brother. I can marry into your family. Our future kids can take Cora's surname. And I can take it too. When my screams echoed through the venue, large bunches of fireworks suddenly shot up around the estate. Amid the crackling sounds, Wade happily held my dad's arm, looking like he'd finally married himself off. Extra, Wade's diary. All of Wade's passwords are my birthday, and he never hides anything from me. I thought he was completely open with me, but unexpectedly, I still stumbled upon his little secret. That day, my phone died, and out of boredom, I picked up Wade's phone. Then I saw his conversation with his cousin brother. I've asked around, they all say Cora likes poor guys because her ex was poor. Do you think if I pretend to be bankrupt and go to her, she'll get back together with me? His cousin sent an eye roll emoji. You don't need to pretend. You were kicked out of the genealogy by uncle a few days ago. I did it on purpose. I'm going to take this to my wife right now. Wade sent a picture. I clicked on it, and a tattered urea bag appeared in front of me. I spat out a mouthful of water. Wife, what's wrong? Wade's nervous voice came from the bathroom in the distance. Nothing. Wash yourself clean. If you take that tattered bag, you won't even be able to get into Cora's neighborhood. His cousin searched for a long time and sent him a bunch of pictures. A second-hand electric bike, cheap shirts, jeans, and fake watches and belts. Great, brother. Placed the order. Wade sent a happy emoji. I remembered that on New Year's Day, he pushed this dilapidated electric scooter to blackmail me for money. I thought this conversation was already funny enough, but as I scrolled down, there were more surprises. Wade, with the nickname $999 per month, eagerly sent a message to his cousin brother. I heard you're heartbroken. I'll introduce a beauty to you. Then he pushed Xavier's Instagram contact over. Oh my god. I put the phone down in shock. Wade was still humming a song and scrubbing himself seriously in the bathroom. His conversation with his cousin really piqued my curiosity. After hesitating for a moment, I decided to explore this man's inner world. In his memo, he wrote, "My wife broke up with me because I stepped into the house with my left foot first today. I practiced walking for a whole week. But then I tripped over myself and fell. It hurt so much. I cried for a long time while holding my wife's clothes. My cousin said that if I want to win my girlfriend back, I have to pretend not to care about her first. But my wife thought I was too fake and slapped me. Actually, when my wife slapped me, the first thing that hit me was her fragrance, and then the slap. When that fragrance filled my nose, the burning feeling on my face wasn't pain anymore, it was a kind of pleasure. Today I found out that I was the one who stepped in between them. I was really devastated, but if there was any other way, would I be doing this? If my wife didn't like me, would I even have this chance? Can Xavier just shut up? Didn't I introduce my cousin to him?" I scrolled all the way to the bottom. In the latest entry, Wade wrote, "I noticed that my wife seems to like me again after we broke up. If that's the case, I actually don't mind not having a proper title, although that Lynn guy hovering around her every day is really annoying." I sighed and decided to be nicer to Wade from then on. I exited the memo with mixed feelings, only to be drawn to Wade's search history. How to help girlfriend survive menstruation. Swear words to scold wife can't be too vulgar. My wife has changed since we got together. I laughed so hard I was pounding on the bed, tears streaming down my face. Wade, who had just finished washing, stood in front of me wrapped in a towel, looking pitiful. "Wife, what are you laughing at? You're so cute." I rubbed his face hard. "Can you give me a kiss as a reward?" His hair was wet, and he was really good looking. I patted the bed generously. "Come here, you can get more rewards tonight."